Hey. Yo. What's everyone? What's up, everyone? Welcome to the stream. Merry Christmas. Hope everyone enjoyed their Christmas day. Whether or not you were able to celebrate in any way, or whether or not you even desired to celebrate in any way, I still hope that your day was okay, and if it wasn't, hopefully the next one will be. Okay. I don't know if the music is loud for you guys, but it's kind of loud for me. Actually, I'm just gonna turn this down for me. That's fine. Let me know if the music is too loud or whatever. I don't think it should be, but you never know. But yeah, welcome to the stream. I feel like it's been like a week and a half since I streamed, maybe even more. I guess things get kind of weird during the holidays. But I figured I'd come and wish y'all a Merry Christmas before, at least here, it's not December 26th yet. Maybe where you live it is, but still got a couple hours left of Christmas. And also, you know, if you celebrate other holidays like Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or Festivus or any other holidays that I'm not aware of. The music is loud. I like most people had a pretty low, maybe not like most people, but like a lot of people had a pretty low key Christmas. Just ate a meal with my immediate family, but it was pretty cool. Hung out for a little bit, but that's about it. Normally, I have a pretty large family, so normally it'd be like a pretty. We go pretty ham for the holidays. We gather up everybody, and gather up all the kids and all the grandparents and stuff, and kind of invade someone's house. But for obvious reasons, we didn't do that this year. But I was still able to hang out with my immediate family and eat a nice meal. Anybody else? Did any of you do anything? Whenever someone like asks me like what I want for Christmas, I never really know what to say, especially recently, because these days if I want something, especially if it's not that expensive, I just buy it for myself. But what I realized is you can, if someone is insisting on buying you a gift, you can just tell them to buy something that you were planning on buying anyway and just save the money. So what I've been working on recently is cookware stuff for the kitchen. So I got a lot of cool shit for the kitchen. I got a stand mixer, which is probably the coolest thing. Got a food chopper, and I got a wok. So I'm pretty excited about that. That's kind of the highlight of my gift receiving. My gift receiving, I guess. Also, I mean, I also enjoy like giving gifts to people, but people seem to be like uncomfortable with getting gifts. I don't know. There's this whole thing about Christmas and gift giving where you're supposed to be able to figure out a gift that a person would like, and it's like it's considered like taboo to tell the person what you want, but that makes no sense. Like I could see for someone that you know very well, like I don't know, like your spouse or like your best friend or something, but I don't understand this whole setup. I feel like I'm okay with gift giving. I think gift giving is cool, and I think it's awesome if you can surprise someone with something that you know they would like, but it just seems very hard to actually pull that off. Usually what happens is you get someone something that they're like ambivalent about or indifferent to, and they just say, "Oh, this is neat. I don't need this or want this, but I have it now, so maybe I'll try to figure out how to do something with it." I think it's much easier to just tell people what you want or ask people what they want. Or if you want it to be a surprise, you can give many options. Say like 5 things that you want, and then they pick one, and you don't know which one they're going to get. But I don't know. I don't. Some people think that if you just ask for something, they give it to you. That spoils the surprise. But in my experience, I don't. I'm happy. Like I asked for cookware and I got cookware, and I'm very happy about it. Do I cook often? I do cook often. I wouldn't say that I'm great at cooking, but I think it's something that you get better at if you do it a lot. So I'm better at it than I was like 5 years ago. Oh, your birthday's coming up, Andy. Congrats. I feel like 18 is a it's a big year. Merry Christmas, Shaloa. Friend gave me a pizza cutter as a present. I really like it. Yeah, it's a great thing to have. A pizza cutter is one of those things. Like there's a lot of kitchen devices that are only meant for one thing, and usually those things are bad to like a lot of things. A lot of tools can accomplish many goals. So if you buy some kitchen tool that only accomplishes one goal, it's usually pretty inefficient. But the pizza cutter is uniquely good at what it does. It's much better than a regular knife at cutting pizza. Have you watched Succession? I have not. Favorite cuisine to cook? I really like cooking omelets, and I really like cooking fried rice. Those are probably my two favorite things to cook. Couldn't afford gifts for each of my D&D friends, so I just got us glass bottles to RP drinking potions. Oh, those, yeah, that's great. I actually got those for my group as well. Electrolo Main, thank you for the $5 super chat. Hey T1J, what up? Let's Heiko up in here. It's gonna be lit in. It's gonna be lit in this in a nuanced way. Okay, I appreciate that, Heiko. Indeed. What is my ethnicity? Um, I don't know. Black. My mom is Latina, but I really wasn't raised in like Hispanic or Latin culture at all, so I don't really identify that much with it. But I mean, I have that connection by blood. I got a nice set of pot and pans. Yeah, see, I would have loved that. I have pot and pans, but I feel like you can never have too many pots and pans. I mean, I guess until you like run out of space in your cabinets to store them, but I think I need more pots and pans. But that's one thing I will say: if you ask for cookware, people generally won't get you pots and pans because they either assume you already have some or they assume that those are too boring. But like something like a wok, which I guess technically counts as a pan, but um, that's more exciting. Curry is fun and simple when you get the hang of it. Yeah, I've never tried cooking curry before. I should try it. Pizza cutters are fantastic but difficult to clean. Yeah, I just throw everything in the dishwasher and it seems to work. I did see that community channel posted, and the video was just as good as any other video. She has not lost a step at all. By the way, if you don't have a pizza cutter and you want one, if you live near a dollar store, Dollar Tree, there's probably a pizza cutter in there. It may not be the highest quality pizza cutter, but it'll do the job for a little while. Am I an anime fan or not really? I generally, when people ask me that, I say I'm not really an anime fan, but what is more accurate is that I just don't watch it, so I'm ignorant to most of it. Basically, my experience with anime is I grew up kind of watching a lot of anime, and the anime that I grew up watching mostly I didn't like, so I stopped watching it. I stopped pursuing it. So it's very possible that there's a lot of stuff that I would like that's out now, but I just don't know about it. But there's a couple of things that I really like. Like I love Cowboy Bebop, and I was obsessed with Naruto in college. I like, yeah, basically stuff like that. And there's a couple others that I like, but generally I feel like anime is like super weird and hard to follow and has weird pacing issues. But that could just be because I'm used to American television. I got Cyberpunk 2077. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, some people would like that and some people wouldn't, I guess. My parents are divorced as well, Andy. My mom's birthday was like a week and a half ago. Yeah, apparently. Well, apparently there's uh, a seizure-inducing scenes in Cyberpunk, but they have toned it down. Like they patched something in there to fix it. I don't know if it's like completely fixed though. I have to wash dishes by hand still. Yeah, I've been lucky enough that I have always lived somewhere that had a dishwasher. I don't. I would be very upset if I had to wash dishes by hand. Doing the dishes, even putting dishes in the dishwasher is disgusting to me. I hate touching dirty dishes. Luckily, I live with my brother now, and he does it almost all the time. So, but I'm soon gonna move out, and I hope I move somewhere that has a dishwasher. Adam Apple, thank you for the $10. Enjoy the holiday. Pretend I said something witty here. Well, I appreciate it anyway. Appreciate the love. Yo, novelty pizza cutters. Hey, if that doesn't exist, we need to make that. Did we just discover a $1 million idea, y'all? We can share in the profits. It's weird how divorce makes Christmas more stressful even as an adult. Maybe especially as an adult. Electric Low Main, thank you for the $20. Why are things that progressives advocate for, like universal health care or universal income or climate change, regulations? Like, isn't this objectively positive stuff? Do we just not care about our fellow man? Well, I think it is. I mean, if we're going to be fair and charitable, it's a little more complicated than that. I mean, I agree with you on a moral basis, but you could argue that laws and regulations shouldn't be made on a moral basis, but on a practical basis in terms of how practical can it be achieved, how much is it going to cost, what are the outcomes of it going to be, things of that nature. And I think that's where the arguments come in. That's certainly the arguments that a lot of more conservative people bring up in terms of the economics of the situation. But I mean, I agree with you. In my opinion, I think healthcare, for example, I think that is a sort of like a moral right that I think everyone should have. So, in my opinion, I think we should figure out how to make it happen, regardless of what it costs to do it. That's kind of how I feel about it. And we already do that for other things. You know, for example, if you open up a store in your town that's open to the public, you're not allowed to not serve black people or not serve gay people. Like it's literally illegal in the United States. And that is a breach on your freedom as a person to run your business in the way that you would like. However, I think that breach of freedom is worth it for the sake of justice and preventing discrimination. So things like that. But going back to the other thing, I think maybe for me, my parents got divorced so when I was so young that I never really, it's never been a big deal to me. Like I kind of don't remember what it's like for my parents to not be divorced. It's just kind of been my life for most of it. So it's just normal to me. It's not that big of a deal. Like there are kind of situations like my dad lives in another state and it's kind of hard to see him as often as we'd like, things like that. But it's just kind of always been normal to me. Novelty ice cream scoops are an annual thing in my fam. Yeah, I bet there are novelty pizza cutters. Am I getting my own place or am I gonna have roommates again? I'm getting my own place. I'm over roommates. I have always had roommates and I'm like completely over it now. I mean, I do sometimes get kind of stir crazy when I'm alone for long periods of time. A lot of people, I think I'm like just a really extreme extrovert, because I know a lot of people talk about how they really enjoy being alone and all that, and I don't really. But I think the trade-off of not having to deal with roommates, and it's not that I've had bad roommates, it's just when you have two people clashing in the way that they want the apartment to be run or the house to be run or the rules of how things are going to work, or someone's personal life might affect the other people in the house. Like, it's just too much. It's just too much to deal with. So I think the trade-off is fine. Hopefully I can just get people to come visit me every now and then. What do I think about the term Latinx, or Latinx as some people say? I mean, I don't think it matters what I think of it. I mean, I think it's fine, but I'm not really a Latin American person, so it kind of doesn't matter what I think. I actually was asking, I asked my fans. I don't like saying fans, but I asked like my followers on Twitter about this. And it seems to be a pretty 50-50 split from what I've seen in terms of people who like it and people who don't like it. It seems like a lot of Latin American people think that it's like, it's kind of like white people refusing to use their word for themselves. But there are also a lot of Latin American people that think it is good because it's gender neutral and you don't have to say Latino, which kind of like implies male a little bit. Also, Latinx is like unpronounceable in Spanish, which some people think is weird. However, my idea of it was that it wasn't supposed to be used. Like, the point of it was for non Hispanic people to have a word. So I don't know. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've stopped using the term Latinx in my videos because it seems to be pretty controversial. So I just say Latin American now. That seems to be, at least most people, no one seems to have a problem with it, at least. So that's what I'm going with for now. Some people have proposed Latine, which I think is, it's something that you can pronounce in Spanish, at least. I think it's kind of awkward to say in English, but it's not that bad. Latine. Where I grew up, people don't believe it's even possible to have universal health care. It's like it's a fantasy. Well, it's because of propaganda, but it's obviously not a fantasy because pretty much every other developed country in the world has some form of low-cost universal health care. So it's clearly possible. Also, Barack Obama very nearly got universal health care. It wasn't universal free health care, but it would have been universal. So it's very it's very possible. It's not a fantasy at all. In fact, I think it is quite possible. In fact, I think if the Democrats take the Senate, it's quite possible to occur very soon. Or at least some form of it. Maybe not the most desirable form of it, but some form of it. What's up, Wei Gaijin? I live alone for the first time and it sucks coming home and no one is there, but I have a cat, so it's not terribly lonely. Yeah, I was thinking that I might get a cat if I do live alone. I was thinking maybe a dog, but that's like way more responsibility. I also am not generally a big fan of cats, but some cats are cool, so maybe I can figure out how to find a cool cat or teach my cat to not be an asshole. Like, there's this idea that you can't really train cats, they just kind of do what they do, but I'm pretty sure that's not true. I don't think I would ever run for office, Andy. Yeah, living alone in these times is probably pretty lonely since you're like kind of not allowed to interact with people. So that would suck. You will love cats once you get one. I don't think so, because I lived with someone else's cat for a good 4 years, and I hated that motherfucker. What's the best piece of media you consumed recently? The best piece of media that I've consumed recently. So what have I consumed recently? Well, I'm trying to think of something that's new or more recent, but I've been watching Community because I never watched it before, and it's pretty good, at least so far. I heard that it kind of like peters off in the later seasons, but I like it. I like it okay. I don't think it's like super top tier sitcom, but I like it a lot. Um, Also, I've been playing the new expansion of World of Warcraft, which is also pretty good. So those are probably the two best pieces of media that I've consumed recently. I'll take your word for it, Christmas Tiger. Where's the Sunday? No Sunday today. Cats are highly variable in that way, much like humans. Yeah. However, like I know some people that have cool cats. Um, However, I think the difference, cats, well, like other animals can be trained. Like dogs are obviously the main example. Almost any dog can be trained to be, you know, pretty chill and obedient. But people don't even really bother trying with their cats. Some people don't bother trying with their dogs either. But my thing is I don't want an asshole cat. That I really don't. That would make just stress me out. What's up? My parents named me Martin. I'm just gonna call you Martin instead of reading that the whole time. I live in Buenos Aires and I'm queer, and as far as I've seen, many people use the X when they write or post things online. Normally end up just doing it for the looks. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that people do just to sort of perform. But for me, I'm interested in finding terms that people are okay with. And also because I like speak for a living, I'm trying to find terms that are easy to say and roll off the tongue. A lot of times, a lot of times these terms are very clearly made by people who don't have to write or speak for a living, and it's pretty frustrating. Do I think the concept of pets is kind of weird? I don't necessarily think it's any weirder than anything else that humans do. Christmas Tiger, you have a very rose tinted view of cats. I'll just put it that way. But I mean, I get it. Cats are cute. They're cuddly. But cats very frequently are assholes. And I don't know that they are like intentionally malicious, but they're very, very often mischievous and uh, rambunctious and stressful. But people let it slide because they're cute and because they, you know, because they sometimes are friendly. Doesn't a goldfish live like 2 weeks and then they die? What's up, Wes? See, the thing, I mean, Andy, I compare it to the term African American. I hate the term African American. I think it sounds dumb, but I'm fine with people using it. Like, you know, if that's what you want to go with, that's fine. Go for it. It's polite. Go for it. My friend's roommate's cat was all sweet with me till he clasped his paws around my wrist and nipped at my forearm. Yeah, cats can be unpredictable sometimes. Some of them seem like attention deprived sometimes. And it's not for lack of attention. It's just sometimes they just want attention and they're not getting it and then they act out. But I guess I can't dispute the argument that it would be different if I owned the cat because it's never been my cat. So I'd have to try that. But I'll consider it once I get out on my own. Hey T1J, when you get down or anxious, what do you do to relieve stress? Meditate, exercise, just kind of relax and watch something like entertaining. Just watch something that I know that I like. Stuff like that. I guess those are the main things. Take deep breaths. That's kind of, to me, I mean, to me, that kind of falls in the same category as meditating. Talking to someone can help. Sometimes I call my mom. That usually helps, especially if I'm feeling like super anxious, like on the verge of a panic attack. What I find helps me a lot is just talking to someone, like calling a friend or calling my mom or something.
Why has there been a growing mistrust in institutions or certain institutions? I trust that my food is safe thanks USDA. Or that my Tylenol is safe thanks FDA. So why are people so skeptical of the COVID vaccine?
Um, Propaganda. When things become politicized, it doesn't matter about the facts or anything like that. I think it's true that, like, the FDA, the USDA, these institutions aren't infallible. They make mistakes sometimes, and they're subject to corruption just like anything else. But all of the conspiracy theories and things are obviously very overblown. But yeah, things become politicized, and with the right propaganda, you can get people to believe anything. What language do I speak besides English? None technically. I have been learning Spanish my whole life. I know a little bit of Spanish, but not enough to say that I can speak the language. What do you think of the claim that lockdowns are being used to facilitate the transfer of wealth from small businesses to bigger corporations? Well, that's first of all, at least in America, nothing is locked down anymore, as far as I can tell. So that's not even happening. Second of all, I don't know if that is a consequence of the lockdown. I'd have to look it up. But I can tell you that that's not the purpose of the lockdown. The purpose of the lockdowns is because there's a deadly, very contagious virus that has spread globally. I'm I'm like 99.9% sure that's the reason why things have been locked down, and not anything else. If the argument is that somehow these corporations got together and convinced every nation in the entire world to pretend that there's a deadly contagious virus that has spread in order to get people to lock down so that they could transfer wealth to themselves. I mean, that's some next level shit if they pulled that off. That's some Doctor Doom supervillain type shit if that's what happened. That's like some comic book level villainy. It's like some Lex Luthor shit. But it's possible that that has been a consequence of the lockdown. But again, there's no way that I could know that without looking up the data. And I think it would be irresponsible for me to assume that that's happening without data. I mean, I think that um, there's definitely reason to believe that that's happening to some extent. But a lot of it, I don't think, is a consequence of the pandemic itself or the lockdowns themselves, but the system behind it. Like the funneling of money to towards rich corporations was happening like way before the pandemic. Do I believe that Apple, Amazon, Facebook, or Google or monopolies? Well, they clearly aren't literal monopolies. It's possible you could argue that they have too large. Their market shares are too big. Um, but it's just like it's like very complicated. Um, because the whole point of capitalism is to compete, and if you compete better than other people, and you win because of it, I mean, you can't really argue with that. The problem is we allow um, a lot of shitty ways for people to compete, and I think that's the problem. So, like, if in the case someone was talking about Amazon earlier, I think if Amazon, if the way that they compete is by not paying their workers fairly, treating them like shit, making them overworking them, things like that, that sucks. That shouldn't be a thing. But that's part of how they're able to compete. Or something like Facebook, if Facebook is allowed to allow their platform to be used by um, fear mongering, hate mongering, foreign governments, propaganda, influencing elections, things of that nature, that sucks. That shouldn't be a thing. But if they're allowed to compete in that way, then yeah, they're gonna have an advantage over other competitors. So that, I mean, that's kind of what I've always advocated for. Like I believe in market competition. I think it's good, but there clearly has to be some limits and regulations on that. Like it can't be a free for all. What do I think about the new Animaniacs reboot? I haven't seen it, but I saw the trailer for it, and the trailer was pretty cool in my opinion. I love that they got all of the original voice actors back. Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to need a sort of an overhaul of the way that we sort of think about capitalism. If any of this is intended to be sustainable, um, like there has to be a limit to the pursuit of profit for sure. The idea that a company has to continue to make more and more money infinitely for the end of time is absurd and obviously unsustainable. And the way that companies are able to do it for as long as they do is by being shitty, basically. Oh, I didn't see the Wonder Woman movie. I didn't even realize it was out. I'm always it's always a little bit scary when they when there's like a like a movie about a strong woman that comes out because people usually hate on it. I haven't really seen any like I haven't seen the internet's take on it yet though. Yeah, see that's yeah, that's it shouldn't work like that. And not only are services declining in quality, but the treatment of workers isn't really improving either. Like you would think that with more technology, people would have to work less, or people would work in much more convenient, easier conditions, but it's not really happening. And that's going back to what we said. It's all because of this pursuit of endless profit. So instead of like people having to work less because of the increasing technology, people have to work the same or more because they've decided, well, now we can produce 3 times as much. The only reason I'm not in favor of capitalism as it exists now is because for it to succeed, there has to be some sort of exploitation. I really appreciate that you said capitalism as it exists now. A lot of people don't add that that little descriptor at the end there. There's this idea that just because the way that it is now, there's the idea that because it is the way it is now, that means that is the only way that it could have been, which I don't really agree with. So I also am not in favor of capitalism as it is now, especially in America. I really enjoyed the first Wonder Woman movie for the most part. I feel like the third act was kind of bizarre, but overall I thought the movie was pretty cool. But I think about Candace Owens. I honestly don't even think about Candace Owens that much anymore. If we could think of a first next step into good capitalism, what would it be? I don't know what the first step. There's so many things we have to change. Um well, first of all, we have to I don't know, there's so many things. I don't know about a first step. There's a lot of things we have to do, like we have to first of all we have to make lobbying illegal. We have to get rid of corporate personhood. Um, we have to find some way to either increase wages or increase standard of living through the provision of basic necessities through either universal basic income or some kind of increased expanded welfare. And then just like a shit ton of regulations. Because when you start doing things like this, the businesses are going to immediately respond by being weird. They're going to want to raise prices. They're going to cut hours. They're going to want to fire people. So there has to be regulations on those types of reactions. Like you have to put these corporations in a stranglehold, basically. Um, and the way that they avoid that is through things like lobbying and corporate person, and that's why I mentioned those things. They basically get to write the laws. Which obviously is a problem. I also love ContraPoints and Captain Disillusion. Captain Disillusion just uploaded a video today. Actually, I didn't watch it. He uploads a video like once every 2 months now, but they're always so good. So it's like, it's fine. You can upload whenever you want. Take as long as you want. But yeah, I forgot to watch the video. I mean, there definitely would have to be changes in the tax code because that's another way that corporations sort of maintain those stranglehold on the economy and the country and things of that nature. When I think about Charlie Kirk, why don't you ever ask about someone who's like not a maniac? The countries that currently suffer the most are the ones that have poor regulation when it comes to human rights and environmental issues. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. Pulsing Games, thank you for the $2. How should our education system change? Well, I think that education is probably good. It's probably a good thing to have an educated populace, and I think that we value that to a certain extent in that we provide, you know, in America. I assume you're talking about America, but you know, we provide public schools, K through 12 for free. So I think that's really good. I mean, I think it's pretty baseline, but it's still a good thing. It means that we care at least a little bit about education. However, even though we do that, we don't like invest that much into the public schools. Paulson, thank you for the $3. Also, your rat, thank you. So I don't know if it was up to me, I would invest a lot into education. There's no reason. See, I think this is the problem, and it's kind of like a cycle, and we have to make sure this doesn't happen with healthcare. But this is the argument that Republicans and conservatives use: is when everything that's like run by the government is kind of shitty, like fucking public schools not that great for for many people. Public defenders are not that great when you need a lawyer. Things like that. Everything that's provided by the government is not that great. But the reason is because we don't invest in it. We don't prioritize it. We just kind of have it there. It's like, hey, there's some shit that you can do if you want to. We're not going to really invest in it or make it good, but it's there. And we have to make sure that that doesn't happen with healthcare. Crimson Tiger, thank you for the 20. Because if we do public health care and it sucks, the Republicans are gonna be like, well, we told you so. Brody, thank you for the $10. Thank you for all the donations, everyone. Not to dismiss the importance of political system, but I believe getting people to understand each other better is more important because that's when we can achieve greatness. Thoughts? I don't know if it's more important, but I think that it's important, and I think that if that's something that you are passionate about and you want to focus on, I think that's perfectly fine. I think that that's a large part of what I focus on in my work is just trying to encourage people to be less shitty to each other. But the problem is we can be as nice to each other as we want. We can kumbaya all day. But there are still people in power that don't give a shit about any of that. And us, you know, holding hands and being happy is not going to change that. So I think that's why I think it's important to still talk about political strategy and, you know, go vote and things like that. But it's all, you could also argue that once we become more aligned, not even more aligned, but just more understanding of each other, that will influence us to think about political strategy differently and things like that. Because of this whole thing with the pandemic relief stimulus bill, apparently a lot of conservatives are not happy with the Republicans, with Mitch McConnell and all them. And someone was screenshotting some posts from like the r/conservative on Reddit, and apparently a lot of them were like, you know, kind of unhappy with the Republicans and kind of seeing not eye to eye, but finding themselves on the same page as a lot of people on the left on this sort of thing, because they understand like this shit happened through no fault of our own. We just went to work and did our job and lived our life, and then now we're struggling. It seems like the government should do something about that, and it seems like it should be more than $600. So, you know, when you start to see eye to eye, I think that can affect how you see the politics. All right, Christmas Tiger, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for the super chat. This isn't a both sides argument, but I've heard leftists use similar arguments when talking about reparations. I don't remember what that's in reference to. Sorry, I just said a lot of stuff, so and I probably missed the chat when you first wrote it. I've heard the argument that the same government that caused the need for reparations couldn't possibly the ones to fix it responsibly. Oh, well, yeah. So the idea that the government is sort of inefficient and inadequate, I think, is fair, because it is a lot of the time. But I think that is where the role of the people comes in. I think that's why voting is important. I think that's why putting pressure on elected officials is important. I think largely the reason why government is inefficient is because the people there don't seem to give a shit about what people need and want. So if we can fix that part of the situation, I think things will be a lot better. As for reparations, I mean, that's kind of a tangent, but I don't think the government is solely responsible for providing reparations. I think the private sector is culpable as well, especially some of these like legacy companies that were a large part of slavery and discrimination throughout the years. I don't know Hannah Reloaded. Electric Low Main, thank you for the 5. Why don't progressives have super influential media personalities like Hannity or Limbaugh? We seem to have those uber personalities. Because in order to do that, you have to be pretty unscrupulous. Here's the thing, and this is something that I think progressives and the left need to be better at. People don't give a shit about the data or the facts. By and large, people do. Some people do, but most people don't give a shit about that. Most people don't want you to break down the studies behind why something is true. People just want a story that sounds good to them. They want a story that touches their bases and confirms their biases. That's what people want. And Republicans and the right, conservatives, are very, very good at providing that. They've realized that they don't have to say anything that's true because people don't give a shit about that. And it sucks. It's unfair, but it's true. So the left has to figure out a way, and honestly, a lot of the left has these days, especially the people who are further to the left, who are like socialists and communists and stuff. They figured that out a little bit more, and that's why we're seeing a rise in socialism, especially among young people. But like progressives, they need to figure out a way to write a narrative that moves people and is not overcomplicated while still telling the truth. And I think that's something that I try to do on my channel. I mean, I don't have like, I consider my channel to be pretty, not too complicated. So hopefully explaining things in a simple way while also making compelling arguments. I mean, I think that's what the left needs to be better at. And I think there's a few people online. Someone mentioned ContraPoints. I think ContraPoints is great at this. ContraPoints is very good at explaining something in the way that doesn't make you feel dumb, but also kind of moves you in like a emotional, spiritual way. He's good at telling stories, basically. There's a lot of good YouTubers that do that. And I think being a good YouTuber, one of the skills you need is being good at telling stories. And I think that's why a lot of YouTubers are very good at it. A lot of progressive thought leaders, speakers, pundits are not very good at that. I fully appreciate someone who just tells the facts, who explains the science behind things. I appreciate that as a person, but that's not gonna win the day ever. And I fully understand that what progressives have to do is harder than what the right has to do. But you got to figure it out if you want to win. What's up, Michelle? My Christmas was very low key and cool. Just ate some food with my immediate family. In Brazil, when slavery was abolished, the president burned all slave trade documents so former slave owners would not be able to demand payments for their losses. Wow. Imagine thinking you're entitled to like payments because you used to own people. That's wild. I see friends on social media ask for reparations to their Venmo, and I, as a white person, find this uncomfortable. Could you weigh in on personal reparations? I don't know. I think that's pretty cringe. I find it kind of suspicious too. Like, I don't know. It seems unlikely that someone like truly believes that someone should Venmo them money because they're a marginalized class. It seems like kind of a scam to me. But I will say I know some white people who choose to do that on their own, and I think that's fine. Like, this is kind of similar, but I had a friend who needed who had some medical bills or something like that, and asked for help from the community, but she said that she wouldn't accept money from people of color. And I don't think that's mandatory, but I think it's fine if that's what you want to do. In your own words, what's the difference between progressives and a communist/socialist? I don't know, man. I all of these terms I feel like the meaning keeps evolving over time, and I'm always one step behind. I have no idea. I feel like a progressive is anybody that is basically in favor of pressuring the government to use its resources and power to help the most marginalized people in society, basically that sort of thing. However, a lot of socialists and leftists don't identify as progressive, so um, I think progressive, I feel like I think of it in the way that Americans use the term liberal, is basically people who are left of center, essentially. Um, and then there's leftists, which I think of a leftist as basically the defining characteristic of a leftist is someone who wants to get rid of capitalism, basically, who is anti-capitalism. So that includes socialists, communists, anarchists, and more specifically, people who want to get rid of capitalism and replace it with a more um, uh, people/worker based economy. But liberals are generally in favor of capitalism. So that's kind of what I think of progressive, and that's kind of what I think the difference is. I ask because folks like Bernie and AOC consider themselves socialists but are labeled progressives by media. I think that the thing with Bernie and AOC is they probably are personally socialists, but they don't actively um they don't actively push for socialist policy because they don't think it's currently practical. They're democratic socialists, and these are basically people who want to like gradually move the country towards socialism through incremental changes in policy, and I think that's what they're doing. I think it's possible that they are personally socialist, but they understand that they can't just be like fucking dismantle the profit motive and get rid of, make all companies worker owned. Like that would never fly. What do I think about Jimmy Dore? I don't follow him that much, but every time I hear something about Jimmy Dore, he sounds like he's out of his mind, or not that he's out of his mind, but he just sounds like a alarmist, like pessimistic liberal who's just like stirring up shit and just wants people to, um, I don't know. He's like sowing this like seed of apathy and pessimism in the left, which I don't think is useful. I'm gonna go use the restroom real quick. I will be back real soon. You back? What up? What up? Got some Chileans in the chat. Shit. Jimmy Dore is a left-wing political commentator. Got a YouTube channel. It's pretty popular. I've been drinking. I've been sipping on a little beer. How could Bernie appeal to the majority of Americans? I think he already does appeal to the majority of Americans. I think probably Bernie Sanders is to the left of most Americans, but he's clearly very popular. I just think that a lot of voters, a lot of left-wing voters, think that Bernie can't win a general election because he doesn't appeal as much to conservatives and moderates as someone like Biden. Like, if you're a conservative and you like conservative policy and conservative values, you are unlikely to vote for Bernie. You might vote for Biden though. Because you might feel like he's more willing to compromise on a lot of things. Merry Christmas, Rose. Thanks for stopping by. What do I think about colorism? I did a whole video about colorism. It's called "This is Colorism." This is how you see wealth factor into what? Would I get rid of electorate votes if you give them the choice? Yeah, I think pretty much everyone understands that the Electoral College is terrible at this point. Even so, it seems pretty unlikely to be removed anytime soon. Does how you see wealth factor into whether you would prefer Bernie? Is that what you're asking? I mean, probably. I think that people who don't have a lot of money very often are easier to convince that the reason they don't have a lot of money is because someone else has taken it from them. And so for people on the left, that someone else is rich people and corporations. And for people on the right, that someone else could be minorities, immigrants. I think if Bernie was a little bit younger, he'd be taken more seriously. Possibly. I don't know, though. It doesn't seem like people really give a shit about how old people are. I mean, people bring it up. It's kind of a meme, though. I mean, we just had an election between the two oldest candidates ever. Surprising amount of my conservative friends and family expressed that they wish Bernie won the primary as opposed to Biden. I don't understand what this is. Yeah, I'm not sure. But like I said, it could be because I think a lot of conservatives are sick of the establishment and sick of Wall Street and all that stuff as well, because they think that I think even conservatives are starting to realize that they don't give a shit about the little guy. None of these none of these Republicans, none of these corporations, they don't really give a shit. And at this point, I think a lot of them are realizing that the Reaganomics, the trickle down, that none of that shit worked. But I think that was a large part of the appeal of Trump, because he seemed to be a Washington outsider. He wasn't gonna, kowtow to all these establishment veterans and career politicians. Meanwhile, you have someone like Biden, who is the definition of a career politician, definition of Washington establishment. But that's just a theory. I don't know if that's the reason why, but that's kind of what I would think, what I would guess. The NPVIC, what is that? Oh, the popular vote thing. I mean, I don't know if anybody. Well, I mean, a few states have agreed to it, but it really doesn't mean anything unless every state agrees to it. You say Trump is a puppet of conservative wealth. No, I don't think Trump is a puppet at all. I think Trump is a loose cannon who does whatever the fuck he wants at any given time. No, I think that Trump has probably made a lot of shady deals, and he probably owes favors and money to a lot of people. But I don't necessarily think that makes him a puppet. Electability gambit made cons like Bernie. Yeah. I mean, are you saying that they liked him because he was less electable? So anything for the 5. Do you think Republicans like Mitch McConnell know what socialism is? I think that Mitch McConnell is not stupid. I don't think that. I would guess that there are Republicans that don't understand what socialism is. We've seen some pretty cringe shit from Republicans. Like that guy who brought a snowball into the house to prove that global warming wasn't a thing. Hugo, thank you for the $3.99. But Mitch McConnell, I don't think is a dumb person, and I think that he probably knows what socialism is. But again, it's propaganda. They understand that all they have to do is tell the story in the right way, and they get support. They can spread the narrative. Appreciate it, Hugo. You think Bannon chose Trump instead of the other way around? Possibly. Interesting. Yeah, I think it's possible that I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that a lot of conservative groups were bolstering Bernie because they thought that he was a weaker candidate than Biden. It is pretty interesting though, because Barack Obama, I feel like, ran a campaign very similar to Bernie Sanders, very sort of grassroots, like we're gonna like I'm this newcomer to this presidential thing, and we're gonna change this thing from the ground up. But Obama won, so it was interesting, and I don't remember exactly, but my guess is that Obama was not the darling of the Democratic Party at the time. Like, I don't think he was their pick. I don't think he's who they wanted. Correct me if I'm wrong. Some of you might know more about that. Seems likely that they would have wanted Hillary. But maybe at that time it was different. And like in 2016, it was like pretty clear from the beginning that Hillary was going to win. Like no one even had a shot. Like Bernie Sanders made some waves, like for sure, but anyone who was being honest with themselves kind of knew that Hillary was gonna win the nomination. No, Hillary definitely ran in 2012. No, 2008. She lost to Barack Obama in the primary. John Edwards had a following but lost support after the scandal. That is true. I wonder how far he would have gotten though. Barack Obama had the benefit of George W. Bush being a trash fire and Short Ferry doing accidental agitprop on his behalf. Oh, I had much concern about the Obama wave, and it played out about how I expected. Yeah, maybe it was just the perfect storm. Did Trump not run like Obama and Bernie by presenting himself like the newcomer who will shake things up? Yeah, I mean, there were definitely comparisons. However, his campaign, I think, focused more on like Obama and yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, I think that you're right. You're right. Obviously it's different because it's from a Republican or a conservative perspective, but it was essentially the same thing. It was a very like populist kind of thing. It was like, I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna do the things that I know that you actually want to get done. Not that Trump or Obama did that, but did I hear Andrew Wang? Do you mean Andrew Yang? Or is there someone named Andrew Wang or Wang running for mayor of New York City? I didn't know that though. I think Obama. Yeah, I was thinking that Obama probably had better funding and he probably had corporate donors. But on the surface, I think the idea was very similar. All right, WD Callahan, thanks for checking out the stream. I'm probably not going to be streaming for too much longer, maybe about 30 more minutes. I was under the impression that Obama had a lot of support from people who wouldn't normally get interested in politics because he was to become America's first black president, and that was a huge deal. Yeah, well, that's absolutely true. I mean, Obama, like, black people historically don't vote that much. that the numbers are not that high. I think that's changing these days. But Obama brought a lot of black people to the polls. But it's not just because people wanted to vote for a black person, because black people have run for president before, several times. So it was more than just, hey, maybe we can have a black president. He was able to reach people in a way that's never been done before. I mean, I'm no like campaign expert, but I feel like anyone who is a campaign expert, like if there's a college course on how to run a political campaign, I feel like you have to study Barack Obama's campaign in 2008. It's got to be one of the greatest of all time. And to be fair, you have to study Trump's as well. It's probably also one of the greatest of all time. This is not to say that it is like morally good, but in terms of its effectiveness and defying all the odds, I feel like it's got to be one of the greatest. Do you think we'll colonize other planets? If so, I wonder how we'd govern them. Would we start over at something new? It just depends on who gets there, really. It depends on who gets there first, probably. Like if the current government of America got there first, they would probably govern it the way that they govern the country, and it would probably suck. If some, like, I don't know, like if Elon Musk got there first, you know, that'd probably be pretty weird, but it would be a lot different than if a politician was in charge. The Obama versus Hillary primary battle was pretty nasty, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that there was. I mean, I think it was pretty nasty, but I also think the media played it up a little more than it needed to be. But yeah, they were going at each other's throats pretty hard. Mary Chaunch to all. What's up, Chris? I like the AOC tactic of using small donations to allow her to not be obsessed with fundraising. That's true. AOC at this point has a pretty much guaranteed seat. She's very popular in New York, and she lives in it's not like a Republican is going to take her seat, so she doesn't really have to be that obsessed with fundraising. But I think it's wrong to imply that fundraising like doesn't matter. Like you have to raise funds, which sucks, but it's true. What is political campaign and cult of personality split for you then? I agree that we must study underhanded tactics to find a better way. Well, I mean, I think all political campaigns are cults of personality. That's the only way that dangerous cults of personality don't form is if the voter public gets more informed and more savvy. That's the only thing that can fix that. But I mean, that's kind of what politics is right now, or at least in terms of elections and campaigns. It's all about building a cult of personality. Absolutely. And that's probably not great. That's not a good thing. But it's a good thing when the person that I want to win does it. So. I feel like Trump's campaign success was equally tied to Clinton DNC's failures. Yeah, kinda. But the problem is we're talking about Donald Trump here. There's no reason why that guy should have been the president. There's just like no reason. You should have been able to put him up against fucking Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he should still lose. You know, you should be able to put him against a fucking 7th grade clarinet player and he should still lose. We're talking about Donald Trump here. He did something weird and wild that allowed him to literally become the president. And that's pretty noteworthy. Like, regardless of how, like, I agree that Hillary Clinton was not a great candidate, but she should have beat Trump. There is no rationale. There's nothing that Hillary did that was so bad that she should lose to Donald Trump. What I think about PragerU, it's pretty trash. It is, but it's also pretty brilliant propaganda. So they've actually got it so that people are using PragerU in classrooms now, which is really scary. But that's their goal all along, to pretend to be educational when it's really just misleading propaganda. What do I think of Jordan Peterson? Well, I haven't looked into Jordan Peterson in a while, but it seems like most of the things, whenever he talks about politics, he sounds like he doesn't know what he's talking about, or he sounds wild or weird. I don't think I've ever heard him say anything that smart about politics. As far as like psychology and like his actual field, he seems pretty competent in that, which makes sense. You know, his PhD or whatever. Sylvanas or Trump? Well, Sylvanas is a go-getter. It's interesting. I was actually talking about this earlier, not that specifically, but I think that as wild and wacky and unhinged as Trump seems to be, I still don't expect him to just launch a nuke or just randomly start a war with someone. I don't think that would happen. So there are definitely world leaders that are worse than Trump in that respect, at least. Sometimes you have to wade through a swamp to find fresh water. That's true. I mean, that's why we're taught about all of the shitty history of America, or at least I was taught. I've heard that some schools they kind of sugarcoat things like the slave trade. They tell the kids that the Indians broke bread with the Pilgrims and they were friends forever. But that's why we should learn about those things so we can, not make the same mistakes. Trump got elected because of memes and because of a strong anti-liberal atmosphere. I mean, possibly, but I think a lot of that is part of, is because of Trump's campaign. Alexa Lemaine, thank you for the 5. I'm out, T1J. Glad I got another year to be a follower of your content. You are a bright flower in a desert of crap. A desert of crap. Cheers to you, brother. Thank you very much. That's very sweet. Thank you. And also, I made a video about this, but I do think that the Republican Party has sort of been building the groundwork for someone like Trump to succeed, but I still think that it's a very remarkable and unusual that he did succeed. What's the red extension going into your mic? It is basically a I guess it's a preamp. It's called the dynamite mic amp or something. The Shure SM58 or whatever the fuck it's called. SM7B, sorry. This mic is very, very quiet, and if you want to get good volume without like boosting the gain and getting all kind of noise, you have to have like a external preamp. And this is just like a cheap one that you can just like literally plug directly into the mic rather than buying like a big box or something. Seems to work okay. He said leftists need to be better at being persuasive in media, yet we're critical of Jimmy Dore. I would call Dore honest propaganda. He usually tells the truth. I don't know that he usually tells the truth. I don't think it's true that he usually tells the truth. I think he exaggerates like almost all the time. He seems to be kind of like a he's borderline conspiracy theorist. What's the word? He's like an alarmist. That's like kind of the main word I would use to describe him. He exaggerates things to sort of stoke alarm and pessimism and apathy in the audience. So I don't think that's good. I don't think he's, from what I've seen. I haven't watched every single one of his shows, but that's what I've seen. Centrists are afraid of being kicked off middle class. How can we help them lean towards more social projects? Sorry, I got distracted. How can we help them lean more towards social projects? Well, I don't know. I mean, it's probably going to be on a person-to-person basis. Like I said, most people, I think, need you to create a narrative that's persuasive to them. But also, some people are persuaded just by showing the facts and showing the evidence. For example, that's why I made 2 videos about police brutality that are basically just filled with just literally a list of facts and data and statistics. Because sometimes that's persuasive to people. Sometimes people are like, well, what about this? And then you're like, no, actually, there's a huge body of data that shows that that's not true. For some people, that's persuasive. Not for everyone, but for some people, it is. Yeah, I was looking, I got distracted because I was looking for this Jimmy Dore quote that kind of describes the problem. But this is the quote. The quote is, I start from the premise that the government is lying. And now I just have to figure out what they're lying about specifically. And, if you're a conspiracy theorist or an alarmist, that's appealing to you, but that is super irrational and dangerous to think like that. So yeah. What are your thoughts on black actors portraying white people in movies / plays like Hamilton? I don't think I care about that. I think that's fine. How's your quarantine going? You go outside regularly for work or whatever? No, I work from home. I mean, this is kind of my job, is being an internet dude and making content for the internet. So I don't really have to leave my house that much. You think America engages in propagandistic myth making more than other countries? The Pilgrims and Indians were friends forever. The founders were very wise. I really have no idea because I didn't grow up in another country, so I have no idea what kind of propaganda they use. I really could not answer that question. If someone is from another country, maybe they can answer it. I mean, if we're talking about propaganda, probably the kings of propaganda is North Korea. I'm really interested in men culture and how we men are also victims of the patriarchy, I guess. Will you ever make a video about that? Possibly. I don't know if I have anything to say about that that hasn't been said a million times already. I did a video a long time ago, like maybe like 7 or 8 years ago, about men's issues, but I don't really specifically talk about how the patriarchy, how the patriarchy is involved. I also did a video about toxic masculinity a few years ago. But maybe I'll do like a more cohesive video at some point. I just have to think of a specific angle to go at it from. Wonder how many of you viewers think you're an actual janitor. Well, I get asked all the time if I'm a janitor, which is, I feel it's a fair question. But I am not, nor have I ever been a janitor. I think the key to good propaganda is for the target to think they came up with the idea themselves, and I think this is sorrowfully common in many cultures. I mean, that's true too. I think the thing is, I mean, that happens, but what also happens is you have a spark of an idea and you're not sure if it's cool for you to have that idea. But then some charismatic person comes and be like, no, actually, you're right. And then that bolsters you. And that idea could be something awful or immoral. How long did it take you to grow your hair out, and do you plan on going clean cut again eventually? I've been growing my hair for maybe like 11 or 12 years now. Maybe I'll cut it off for content one day. I don't know. I'm gonna have to get a lot more subscribers and views though, because it's gonna have to, like, it has to be like guaranteed 10 million views if I'm gonna cut my hair off. Other than that, if I start balding or something, I'll cut it off, but it doesn't seem likely that that's gonna happen. That doesn't really happen to the men in my family, luckily. My hairline is pretty high though, so maybe the hairline will continue to recede and then it'll start looking stupid. Many Trump cultists have the toxic masculinity mindset. I think toxic masculinity is often associated with conservatives because they have sort of this like traditional like mindset of what like a man is supposed to be. But also, toxic masculinity, I think, is more of a subconscious thing most of the time. It's just because men are sort of not ever given, we're not usually given the opportunity to express themselves emotionally or to explore like their softer sides. And so there's kind of like a lot of pent up aggression and emotional energy that just gets released on people, especially women. Yeah, I don't have any plans to cut my hair. If I do cut it, it'll just be to trim it to make it shorter, but I don't even think I'm gonna do that. It seems to have stopped growing, to be honest. It got down to almost like the bottom of my back, and then it just stopped growing. Yeah, people who've been watching a while have seen the evolution of my hair. What has my experience been like with cops? Or the men in my family? Or are you responding to what I said earlier? Well, I don't leave my house that much, so I don't have that many opportunities to interact with the police. I will also say that I think the police in the city that I live in are generally okay, as far as I can tell. But there's been times where I've been like harassed by cops and pulled over for dumb reasons. But it's usually not even in the city I live in. It's like I live in Birmingham, Alabama, which is kind of like the largest city, the most diverse city. But there are a lot of like suburbs on the outskirts of it, and that's usually where the shitty police are. And that's usually where the problems occur, where you get pulled over for no reason, and they like try to find a reason after the fact that they pulled you over. That's happened a couple times. Luckily, nothing too drastic has happened. Do guest spots on other YouTuber shows like Ben Dixon? I mean, I might if they ask me. I've done a couple of things like that, but it's been a while because no one's asked me. Like I can't like just invite myself on. People ask me that, not saying you're doing this, but people ask me a lot like, why don't you collaborate with people more? Why don't you do more guest spots? It's like you realize they have to like ask me to do it. I can't just like force myself onto other people's channels. What's up, JMB? But yeah, if people ask me to, I will. But I mean, I've done a couple. Is that? Let me see if it's still on my channel. I may have taken it down. Okay, I did take it down. Well, if you go to my channel, if you go to my YouTube channel and click on playlist, one of the playlists is called T1J on other channels, and you can see a few of the appearances that I've made on other channels. Some of them have been like removed. Like when ContraPoints was first getting started with her channel, she did a lot of interviews of sort of progressive and leftist channels, and I was on there, but it looks like she took all those down, which kind of sucks. I realize it looks like I'm intentionally like showing the logo as if I'm sponsored by Keystone, but I really am not. They are free to sponsor me though. I would love that, but I drink it enough. But that just happens to be how I'm holding it. It's where the mouthpiece is. Yeah, I mean that. I assume that that's what it was. A lot of her old videos are triggering for her, which is fine. So, I think I'm going to start winding down the stream. Probably going to end the stream in about 5 minutes. So maybe you can answer a few more questions or respond to a few more comments if you like. Yeah, everyone should watch ContraPoints. ContraPoints is the best YouTuber. Truly, like, truly, her work is beyond anything that any of us deserve. But yeah, thanks for checking out my stream. What is the date on Monday? I will try to stream on Monday. And just sort of FYI, 2020 has been, it's been a really weird year. But in terms of me and my career, it's been the best year ever. And that's obviously, you know, only because of you and the rest of the audience watching and supporting the channel. So I just want to extend my gratitude to all of you. It's, you know, I mean, I pretty much get to have a dream job because of y'all, so that's dope. Um, and a lot of it, I think, was because I decided to really buckle down and really find my voice this year and work really hard, make more videos, things of that nature. But I am I'm going to slow it down for the next month. I probably will release one video in January, but it'll probably be like a shorter video. But I'm just gonna take. It's not even really a break, but it's just gonna be a little bit of a breather. But then we'll continue full steam after that. Um, and I'll still try to stream every week. But just want to give y'all a heads up on that. I'll probably reiterate it maybe in a video. Well, maybe in that one video in January. But I'll probably like make a post about it, I'll probably tweet on it or something. But I just want, like, a lot of YouTubers deal with burnout, and I'm just trying to avoid that basically. Because if you just like just keep going and going and never stop and never give yourself a break, you're gonna burn out. Like what's gonna happen is you're gonna start releasing low effort, low quality shit, and eventually you're just gonna you're gonna burn out. So just want to avoid that. So it's just a little quick little breather. I was thinking about doing like just audio versions of my videos, but my videos, if you go and watch most of my videos, most of them have a pretty strong visual element to them. I don't know if they would work as podcasts. Maybe some of them would. EJ95, thank you for the 10. Have a good night. I appreciate that. You also have a good night. But yeah, everyone have a good night. I don't know. I'm thinking about starting a podcast. The problem is I don't want to edit it, so that's more work. So if I could just do it and get someone else to edit it, then maybe. And there are people that I know that might be interested in doing that. So anyway, I hope you all had a great Christmas, whether you celebrated it or not. Thanks for tuning in to my stream. I'm going to try to stream on Monday. If not, I will stream on Friday. I think. No, actually, Friday is New Year's Day. So, it's possible that I'll stream on Friday. But it's also possible that I will be asleep / hungover. So, we'll see. Just being real. But yeah. Anyway, that's it for me. If you haven't watched my last video, I released a video about a week ago. It's called Positive Stereotypes. Go ahead and give that video some love. And go watch any of the old videos. They're all pretty good, I think. And I'll see you either Monday or Friday, or the next Monday or the next Friday. And at some point in January, I will release a short video. Nothing too wild, but just something to make sure you don't go a whole month without hearing from me. But I will be taking it a little more easy in January. But after that, we're going to go full steam and just try to make some good content. Anyway, I will see you all next time. Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.